Inside Horizon, I think one of the biggest features is nested groups and nested blocks. So in this video, we're going to go over the theme customizer and how you can use nested groups and blocks to build better layouts. And also, we're going to take a look at the technical side of how nested groups and blocks work inside of Visual Studio Code. I want to go over to this section here, this image and text section, and I want to take a look at how we can use nested groups and blocks. And so I set up this little demo here, and one thing that I noticed is that typically in the past, anytime that I needed a 2-column layout in Shopify, I would need to hop into the code editor and start coding. But with this lovely group block that the team over at Shopify have built, you're actually able to end up creating multi-column and actually pretty unique row layouts with flexibility here. So if I go in, you'll notice that I have a few different groups, and one of the primary groups that I have is this one here, where I have an icon off to the left, and then I have some text off to the right. Again, before in Shopify, this wasn't a possibility, so I'm really happy to see that this is now something you can do. With that in mind, how I created this is I had to end up adding a new group block over here, and you kind of have to search for it because I don't think it's under any of the basic blocks. It's actually under layout, and it's group here. And then once you have the group block added, you're able to add in an icon in here. Awesome. And then you're able to add in some text. And you'll notice at first the blocks stack, but you can actually fairly intuitively change this by switching to horizontal. And then I noticed on mobile, it always stacks. So you'll also have to select vertical on mobile. Now on the example, I won't necessarily recreate the block below because it took a little bit of time just within some of the finicky settings. But essentially what I just showed you, this pattern, is what I've been doing inside of Shopify to create dynamic layouts. I end up going inside some sort of section, I add a group block, and then I end up playing around with the vertical and horizontal settings. Now, a few important settings within the group block as well is you'll notice that there's alignment. So there's alignment left, center, and right. And then there's also the space between setting as well too. For space between to work, you actually need to have the parent container set to fill, which now we're already starting to get into some advanced editing here, but I think it's for the better. So if I go over and I switch to fill, you'll notice that everything clumps together center. And if you want everything to be spaced out, what you'll want to do is go to position, space between, and then you'll notice that everything shoots off in an even spacing top to bottom. Now, obviously, this looks horrendous and no one in their right mind would ship this. But if we wanted to clean it up, what we can do is actually start to wrap our other blocks into groups. So, for example, if I were to go again, select another group block, which again, it's under layout, I can drag in all my other group components with my icons and my text. So I'll just toss that in there, toss that in there, toss that in there, and then we'll do one more over here. And then you'll notice that I have some text at the top. So I might want to keep that text at the top, but then end up adding description within the group, because I might want to point out, a little bit of like context for what those icons actually are. And so I could actually bold that, or what I've been really doing is going over into the typography area and then going into custom for each one of the typography options, because I find I'm just able to build out or just get a little bit more in tune to certain elements. Generally speaking, I think you'll want to stick to heading 1 through 6 and just paragraph options, just to maintain visual consistency throughout the entire site. But if you find that something just isn't quite looking right, like for example, sometimes we have like a heading 3 and it's just like it's a little too large for a certain use case, you can always hit that custom option, which honestly, I've been guilty of hitting a little bit too much. So anyways, now we got our layout defined a little bit more. And again, this doesn't look super great so far. And so what I'm going to do is just bring the image a little bit wider, just so that we're able to bring the content closer together. Because as we make the image wider, the content area from left to right will shrink, and then thus the top and bottom contents will get closer to each other. So you'll be able to see that if I go like this. Oh, and my apologies, I set the image height to auto. So if I actually go something like square, that'll help as well too, or even landscape. Yeah, so now you're kind of getting kind of a unique and interesting layout here. Obviously, it still looks a little funky on larger screen sizes, but as you scale it down, it starts to look a little bit better. Let's actually move this to like 50 or actually let's go to like 75. Like that's pretty cool. Like if you take a look at where we were at the beginning of the video until now, we actually created like a pretty different layout, still using the same pieces, all just by using group and the horizontal, vertical, and position settings. There's also a lot of other really cool settings within the group block that I won't discuss in this video, but I really encourage you to go through the settings and try them out. In this part of the video, I'm going to go over how to actually create groups and blocks within a theme. I'm going to use the Shopify skeleton theme, which is kind of like a staple starter project for Shopify sites without any sections built in. And I'm going to show you just how to create groups and blocks if you are looking to create something more custom beyond what we just saw in the previous layout example. So if I go into my demo site here, I got Visual Studio Code up on the right and a blank new skeleton theme loaded up on the left. And you'll notice that within the skeleton theme, there really isn't much to play with. You have a custom section, which you can add a background to, and then you have an option to add a block. You can add a row, a column, and text. But I want to show you how you can create your own custom group. And so what I've done is under the blocks folder, I've added a custom group in, and I've just come up with some basic schema here. And feel free to reference the schema if you would like in the future. But essentially what we're looking at here, and actually I'm just going to rearrange this just out of my own personal preference and put style sheet up at the top. But essentially what you're looking at here is a place to add some styles. You have this div here with this new content for blocks, liquid code here, and then you have the schema down here. And so the schema is really just defining the custom block. And within the schema, we're saying that you can add a block and you can add any block from within the theme. And now this is already pretty advanced and new to Shopify. And essentially what this is saying is that if we create a new block, which we will in a second, and it's not like hidden, which again, I'll get to in a second, you're able to add it to this custom section here. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the custom group within the theme customizer. So we have our custom section, we have our custom group, and I want to add a custom block in here. So what I'm going to do is create a new block, and I'm going to call it custom block.liquid. And I'm going to just grab Shopify's example is a little complicated. I'll grab this example here and I will put in the custom block. And what I'm going to do is just add, some simple text in here and say, this is a custom block. And I'm going to change the name to custom block. And we don't want to pass in any content inside this block because it's just a standalone block. So we're going to delete this blocks line here. And then we're going to rename the preset name, which is the name that shows up in the theme customizer here, to custom block. So if I go back and type in custom block there, I'm just going to hit save and then reload. Awesome. You'll notice that within our custom section and then within our custom group, we'll have a custom block, which we see here. This is a custom block. Now, obviously, you can pass in any setting like you typically would in the past. So for example, within the settings area in the schema, if I go in and type in, do I have something already? Come on. Tab. Awesome. So now that I have my custom text in here, I'm able to reference it. So inside our paragraph area, I'm going to just make the text dynamic, and I am going to type in block.settings.title. And then if I hit save and then refresh over here, you'll notice that within the custom group and custom block, we now have this title text area where we're able to say custom block. This is a custom block. Now, assuming that you're looking to create more custom blocks specifically for a client, what you can do is end up adding as many settings as you want and styling the block up above here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a class name. So I'm going to go class and I'm going to call it custom block title. And then within the style sheet, I'm going to say that custom block title is going to be color red, font weight bold. And then I'm going to hit save over here. And then you'll notice that our custom block has changed to red and also font weight bold. Now, what's also really cool about adding these custom blocks is that anywhere within the theme, you're able to add this custom block to. So if there's another section that you would want to add this to, like for example, within the product information section, like by the buy button, as soon as this block is created within this blocks folder, you're able to then add that block within the theme customizer anywhere in the theme. But you might be thinking at this point, what if I don't want that block to show anywhere within the theme? What if I only want it to show just for a specific section? And that's also 100% possible. How we do that is we would want to go over to our custom block. We'd want to rename it, and then we want to add a underline before it. So if I go here, underscore custom block. Now, inside of our custom group, what we're able to do is instead of referencing all the theme blocks, we can decide to reference only that block. So in here, if we go type underscore custom block, let me just refresh this and go over here and go add block. Now we're only able to reference the custom block and not anything else. Whereas before we were able to reference everything. Now you're also able to reference the theme blocks as well as hidden blocks. So if I go over here and then I go like so, and then add a comma, we can also go at theme. And then if I refresh, awesome. So now you'll notice that we're able to add our custom block as well as anything else that doesn't have that underscore before it. So any block within the theme. I think I'm going to end the video here because this pretty much explains generally how all of Horizon is built, which is instead of having static sections that just render snippets, we're able to dynamically pull in different blocks from this blocks folder using our basic schema. One last thing I did want to mention though is I've run into a few cases where people have asked, are we able to use the old method of rendering in snippets with this new method of rendering in blocks? And unfortunately you can't on a section level. So you can have a theme that renders in, that one section renders in snippets and another section that uses this new method that Horizon uses. But you can't have, for example, you can't have the option to render in a snippet and also the option to render content for blocks within one block or one section. So you kind of have to choose which path you want to go down. But just from experimenting with blocks over the past few months, I really recommend that you try out using this method because it can get very messy with creating a bunch of snippets. If you want to follow along with my journey of creating this site for Think Coffee, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm trying to upload on a weekly basis. And generally speaking, my goal is to build the sickest, coolest site as possible. So in future videos, we're going to go over product pages and more in depth on how to do like custom sections and styling and so much more. But anyways, hope you guys have an awesome weekend and cheers.